Hello and welcome to episode 199 of the Casual Try Hard podcast. I'm Brian,
And I'm James.
and today we're going to do part one of our set review.
Yeah, we're going to split it up a little bit this week. They changed the release window, so I don't think it's going to be on Arena until the day after we record next week's episode, which is kind of awkward. So we're going to do a little bit of limited stuff. We're going to cover the limited archetypes and maybe what to look out for in the format, and then do a couple cycles, and we'll get into kind of the meat and potatoes of our set review next week.
Yeah. And that way you don't have like a 3-hour podcast to listen to.
And we don't have a 3-hour podcast we have to record either.
Yeah. looking out for everyone here.
That's right.
So if you want to reach out to us on social media, especially like if now you get like 2 shots of this, if you want to reach out with like a card that you want us to talk about for Constructed or something, all those social media links are in the description below, especially our Discord. Hop in there, and that's where we pulled a lot of stuff from the next 2 shows from.
Yeah, also our YouTube channel. There should be a link to that in the description also, but it's CasualTryHardMTG on YouTube. If you want to follow along with us, head over there and you can watch this week's episode where I made kind of a presentation. I usually do something along these lines for our set review episodes so that you don't have to just listen to us rattle off what the cards do. You can kind of read along with us as we go. So if that interests you, head on over to our YouTube channel and check out the video there. Also, if you want to support the show, there's 2 ways you can do that. The first is with our TCG Player affiliate link, tcg.casualtryhardmtg.com. Follow that link on over to TCG Player, and anything you purchase will get a percentage of that helps keep the show going. If you guys want to support us a little bit more directly, patreon.com/casualtryhardmtg is where you can go to do that. Chip a couple bucks in, supports us directly, and you get access to our pre-show every week, which is kind of just another hour of us. You also get access to our show notes, so you get to kind of a sneak peek of what the show is going to be about, and you get put on my mailing list for when I have cool stuff to send out to you guys. I've been working on my next round of give backs, so they're going to be cool. So if you want to get on the mailing list for those, or if you're interested in the pre-show, or if you just really like what we do and you want to support us, patreon.com/casualtryhardmtg. We'd appreciate it.
Yeah. One more thing, talking about YouTube, we made it through almost all of Dominator United with a draft every Monday, Wednesday, Friday. So if you want to watch some Brothers War draft videos with me, I will start recording those once they get on Arena. So hopefully I finish Hollow Knight, because it's like 2018. I finish Hollow Knight, and then I will start grinding out some drafts for everyone.
Excellent. Looking forward to it.
All right. So we're going to start by going through the limited archetypes and kind of what they want us to do. So the first we have red-green. Hooked on Phonics didn't get to West Virginia, so like...
Arbalest Engineers is the signpost uncommon. You know what an arbalest is?
Not a clue. Do they like trees?
No, it's like a ballista crossbow thing.
Okay.
Siege weaponry.
Okay.
This is the red and green signpost. This is kind of, if this is your first time joining us for a set review, this is kind of how we like to kind of approach a limited format, is by breaking down the signpost uncommons. There's a gold card or 2 gold cards or whatever for each limited archetype, typically in a set, and they kind of give you a clue as to what the colors are supposed to be doing. So by breaking down what those cards are, it can help inform your decisions while you're drafting.
It at least tells you what Wizards wanted you to do with the colors.
Right.
Sometimes that works out, sometimes it doesn't. But it's like, hey, this is what we think you should do.
Yeah, if you're a new limited player, it's kind of like training wheels. You can look at them and say, okay, this Arbalest Engineer right here, it's 1 red-green for a 2/2 human artificer. And when it enters the battlefield, you choose one. It can deal 1 damage to any target, or it can put a +1/+1 counter on a creature and give it trample and haste till end of turn, or it can make a Power Stone token. So you can be reasonably confident if you draft this card, your deck will care about some portion of that. Probably
Yes.
either the Power Stone token or the Trample Haste Pumpa thing.
Yes.
'Cause that is what this archetype is. It's
Yes.
defined as Stompy or Ramp.
Okay. And then, so like, I think that a lot of times, like the +1/+1 counter and creature gets trample haste, it's just gonna go on the Arbalest.
Yeah, I mean, unless you got something else in play already that needs like the trample, like if you got some big
Yeah,
monstrosity that you want to give pseudo evasion to.
yeah, fair. Yeah, not super exciting. I don't know how. Like, I think the 1 damage is not gonna be super useful.
Oh, you're so gonna lose to that on day 1.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna be at 1 and just get Arbalest. Yeah.
Yeah.
Remember that stupid skeleton from like
Uh-huh.
the skeletal archer? Yeah, that like would just burn you out of games at the end. Yeah, so I could see that.
Yeah.
Just like in Discord, this deck was great, and I totally got like screwed. Yeah, I can see it. I can see it.
Like, I mean,
All
red
right.
green is kind of one of the tough archetypes too, right? It's
Yeah,
one of
because
the
it's
hard
always
ones for
just like
wizards to like design around.
it's always like big,
Yeah.
and like it's rare that they get like anything else other than big.
Yeah. Same thing with like black green. Like they always are just the graveyard deck.
Yeah, it's like graveyard sacrifice. It's
Yeah.
never like it never like comes together.
Yeah.
I don't know why. I don't know what they have to change, like what they have to change with how they look at those colors to
Yeah.
make that work. But and then blue green is also always the same.
It is recently, at least.
So we have battery bearer. I can say that.
There you go.
It's 2 green blue for a 3/4, and creatures you control have tap, add colorless. This mana can't be spent to cast non-artifact spells. So basically, all of your creatures become Power Stones.
It's pretty cool.
And then whenever you cast an artifact spell with mana value 6 or greater, draw a card.
Also pretty cool.
This just says, cast the giant idiots that are in this format, please.
Mm-hmm.
I will let you do it and then pay you for doing it.
Yep. She always leads the charge.
She does. Ching.
She's a battery bearer.
Yeah, someone dislocated their shoulder, patting themselves on the back with that one.
Yeah, rolling around on the floor laughing hysterically. Oh,
yes.
I cracked myself up.
I did it.
It made it to print.
It made it to print.
Yeah.
They let me get it through. I don't know how. So, like, blue-green's going to be go big. I think something we were talking about in the pre-show a little bit, right, is with these go big decks, I think you need to prioritize not dying in the early game.
Yeah, I mean, which might be kind of tough in green-blue. Like, those aren't really colors
protecting colors.
Yeah, preserve themselves very well. That's typically like a weight thing or, heavy removal or something.
Yeah, so I was going to say you might have to splash into a third color, which isn't super well supported in this format. Like there's
no common duels, right?
No. Or like prioritize like 2 and 3 drops with like high toughness.
Mm-hmm.
Right, where you have to make your opponent like use like an attack, you block, and a trick to get through your thing and just slow them down that way so you can resolve your big thing.
Yeah.
But, I think this format, we'll talk about this later, is going to be aggressive enough that it might that you're not just be able to sit there and just do giant things all the time.
Yeah.
All
I
right.
hope so, at least.
I hope the other thing. I just want to do giant stuff. Want to do giant stuff. So, all right. What is blue-black's card here?
This is Evangel of Synthesis. It's a blue and a black, so just 2 mana for a 2/3 Phyrexian human cleric. When Evangel of Synthesis enters the battlefield, draw a card, then discard a card. As long as you've drawn 2 or more cards this turn, Evangel of Synthesis gets +1/+0 and has Menace. So the theme for blue and black is drawing more than 1 card.
Yeah. We saw this in black-white in Kaldheim.
Mm-hmm.
And it was the blue-red mechanic in Modern Horizons 1?
1 or 2, yeah.
Yeah.
We've had a smattering of it lately.
And it's one of those things that, like, if they've, like, sometimes it just doesn't work that well.
Yeah.
Because your cards, you kind of have to draw your cards in a specific order.
Yeah.
Right? You have to draw your, like, cards that want you to draw 2 cards
And then
first
something
and play
that lets
them.
you.
And then something that lets you. So it's like A plus B.
Mhm.
And if the payoffs aren't good enough,
Right.
then it doesn't really matter. I mean, the payoff here is good.
It is, but it's also like aggressive, so it kind of wants to be in a tempo shell. Like this guy doesn't really do you any good on turn 6.
No. Other than he does solve the problem of he's an enabler.
Right.
And where so you have other things that care about drawing 2 cards already on the board, and you draw this.
Yeah.
If it just had the second paragraph,
Right.
you'd be bummed. But you'd be like, oh no, this like turns on my 2 other cards that matter, that care about this. But then he just doesn't matter at all.
There also
like,
seems to be like a reasonable amount of looting in this set. Like the divination that we got also loots, which plays nicely with the unearth cards. So this might be kind of like a hybrid archetype as well, where it's you're drawing, looking to draw 2 cards in a turn, but also you're binning your big fatties that
you could bring back with unearth, like you're discarding for value.
Yeah.
Or like there's a 5 mana black reanimation spell that's modal.
Yeah.
That if you reanimate something small, you get it costs less. So that could be another way that you're trying to do stuff. Is like, you go, I can discard this thing and then bring it back with my reanimation spell.
Yep.
Later. So, all right. What is red white?
That's a word.
Yeah.
Falaji.
Sure.
Falaji Vanguard. 2 red white for a 2/3 human soldier with first strike. Whenever Falaji Vanguard or another creature enters the battlefield under your control, target creature gets +2/+0 until end of turn.
This is like what's Markov Waltzer? It was flying, and every turn it gave it and something else +1/+0.
Well, I mean, this might be a little bit better than that.
It might be. Well, it flew, so that was good.
Well, right, but like this is every time a creature ETBs. So,
yeah, like this can get out of hand.
You play a couple 1-drops, or heaven forbid, like that 6-drop that makes 4 tokens.
Yeah, and you're just giant.
Yeah.
So it does have that upside.
Yeah.
This really, and like typically there has been a like Fun Police red white deck.
Fun Police.
In these formats. Hey,
I call it keeping you honest.
I got most of my trophies, or my 7 win decks were Fun Police.
Yeah.
Keldon Strike team decks, and there were a lot of like 6 win decks in there. So like I'm not opposed.
Yeah.
To doing the thing, but like these decks have come together a lot recently.
Well, and like part of that is because they're like the aggressive decks tend to be like white, red, black, somewhere in that neighborhood, and they've been trying to put more power into white lately. So like the red white decks, the white black decks, I think have just in general been better because they're trying to up white's power level a little bit.
Yeah, but what there's probably going to be a deck like this that works, that is aggressive, and a card like this can make it happen. And like I oftentimes would rather go wide in the aggressive decks, especially like in a format like this where there's going to be big stuff. Where so that way you can get to a point where it's like I can just send like 4 or 5 or 6 creatures in, and I only need like 2 to connect.
Yeah, going wide is pseudo evasion when you're facing one giant thing.
Exactly, as opposed to like I only have 2 creatures.
Yeah.
And I've been like beating down with that. It's like, no, I'd much rather have like a bunch and then like try to get the damage through that way.
Yeah. So
So
obviously red white's going to be an aggressive color pair in this format. But also, like we kind of just alluded to, is this card in particular can trigger multiple times in a turn. So it's incentivizing you to play lots of creatures, hence going wide. So that's what this archetype's going to be, is go wide aggro.
I think that it is good. It'll be good just because they need it to be, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
Because of the other stuff, I don't think they want the format to just turn into battle cruiser Magic.
Yeah.
Oh, I was like, oh, look up how many token makers there are. Well, the problem is when you just type in token, you get all
the power stones.
All the power stones. Like, well, that doesn't work.
Yeah, there's a couple cards that make soldier tokens, I think. There's that one 6-drop that makes like 4 soldier tokens. That seems pretty like a pretty decent way to close out a game.
Mass production.
Guy. Yeah. So I think there's one that makes soldier tokens, one that makes artifact soldier tokens, and one that makes like bigger soldier tokens.
There's a 4-mana there's a Mishra's Onslaught, which is 4-mana split card of make 2 1/1 soldiers, or modal card, make 2 1/1 colorless soldiers, or Trumpet Blast. On the same card.
That's a great card for this archetype.
Yeah. So like they have there are the tools there to make this happen. So yeah, no, I think this is gonna be good. A good archetype, because they just can't have people just like staring at each other and like just doing huge stuff.
Yep. So what do we got next here?
We got the Hero of the Dunes. It's 3 black-white for a 3/2. When Hero of the Dunes enters the battlefield, return target artifact or creature card with mana value 3 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. And creatures you control with mana value 3 or less get +1/+0.
That's a pretty cool card.
It is. It's weird to have like 3 mana value matters
as
like
a little bit
part of your archetype.
I mean, that's kind of what White's reanimation is, though, or that's what it has been traditionally. So
that's what it has been. Yeah. No, but it's just funny to have like, oh, if it's small, we're gonna make it a little bit more powerful. So you have here that the archetype for black white is like recursion. And like that's just like code for be grindy.
Yeah.
Which means like you need to prioritize like like you're the removal trade your creatures deck.
Yep. Be the last
value later on. Yeah. So like if you're drafting black white, like you need to like probably above everything else, like take removal.
Yeah.
And then like use it judiciously and be like, well, I can trade this 2-drop for this thing because I know I have Hero of Dunes and I can buy it back later.
Yeah.
And I can save my Disfigure for a thing that I can't trade for.
Right.
Or I can save my whatever that removal spell is, the 4 and a black, destroy a target creature. I can save that for the big thing later on.
Yep.
Right, it's just like trade. Okay, buy something back, win the game that way.
Yeah, you're basically trying to grind your opponent out of resources and then have the last thing left on the battlefield when you've traded everything off.
Yeah. And that can work. Like those decks kind of sometimes fall down if they don't get the removal.
Yeah.
And the hard part about a deck that like removal is super important in is removal is not something that wheels.
Right.
No one goes like, oh, I guess I don't want this Disfigure.
Right.
Someone will be like, ooh, a Disfigure, I'm going to take it. And you're like, crap, no, I needed to wheel that Disfigure because I had to take something else.
Yeah.
Right. And so, like, if you get this deck and you're, like, light on removal and interaction, like, you're probably not aggressive enough to get under your opponent. That's not going to always be the case. And then you're going to have a hard time if they go, like, big.
Yep.
Because you're like, I got back a 3-mana thing. And they're just like, attack you for a 10. with my one card, and like, oh,
Oh, you
oh, it
got
has
me.
trample, oh, kind of deal. So,
Yep.
all right, what's red black doing? I wonder.
Could it be
Hmm.
sacrificing things?
It could be.
Yeah. This is Junkyard Genius. 1 black red for a 2/2 human artificer. When Junkyard Genius enters the battlefield, create a tap Power Stone token. Well, that's weird. That doesn't sound like sacrifice, does it?
No.
You can pay a black on a red and sacrifice another creature or artifact. Until end of turn, other creatures you control get +1/+0 and gain menace and haste. So, again, like we were saying with red-white, black-red is also an aggro archetype. This is letting you turn your creatures or artifacts into, in this case, a Trumpet Blast that also grants haste and menace, which seems pretty good. And it's kind of just using the Power Stone, not really for ramp, but just as kind of a way to fuel the Junkyard Genius. So that's another thing you can do with the Power Stones is just use them as a game object instead of for ramp.
Yeah. How? Okay. So the way you know if like black red can be good as like the sacrifice archetype in the format is kind of twofold. Is the oh gosh, the threaten common, and is it like 3 mana? And we're halfway there. It's common and it's 4 mana.
4 mana.
And it makes a Power Stone.
So it gives you more sacrifice fodder.
It kind of feeds, but like I don't think you have like when the sacrifice deck is really good, right? You have like a free sacrifice outlet or multiple free sacrifice outlets that lets you like steal their creature, attack with it, and then eat it.
Yep.
Right. This guy is too expensive to let you
steal it and eat it.
Yeah. Right, like it's 7 mana.
Isn't
like
there an artifact that like sacrifices creatures for mana though?
It's a transmogrifying altar, and it's a black to sacrifice a creature and get colorless.
Yeah.
Or 2 and sack a creature and create a colorless zombie token.
Is that an uncommon? Yeah.
It's an uncommon.
So that helps a little bit. I mean, that's not a terrible sack outlet.
There's a common sack outlet that is 3 mana. So like I think, and there's a sack a creature as an additional cost, sack a creature. There's one of those that's 2 mana. So you have a few ways to maybe kill, like sack something and then like eat it.
Yeah.
But not a ton. So this might be better as like black red aggro,
yeah.
And then you use Junkyard Genius as like your Trumpet Blast to like push through.
I mean that's a powerful Trumpet Blast.
It is.
Give everything evasion and haste and like a power bump. That's pretty good for a repeatable effect.
So, but I would just be worried about. But I mean, there's just be worried about like the sacrifice side of it.
Yeah.
Like a lot of times, like black red is we're black red sacrifice, and it's like the sacrifice thing. You might sacrifice 1 or 2 things during the game. It's not like a thing that you're doing consistently.
Yeah.
And this might be a thing where you activate Junkyard Genius like 1 time. You like get to 6 mana, you play Junkyard Genius, you eat its token, and you attack with your board.
Yep.
And that's just like a 6 mana win the game.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of how this card reads anyway. Like it obviously wants you to be attacking, which means it wants to be in an aggro deck.
Yeah, it's not it doesn't seem like it's the black red grindy sacrifice value sacrifice deck.
Yeah.
Because there's also like Goblin Blast Runner, which is a 1 red for a 1/2 and gets +2/+0 and has menace as long as you sacrifice the permanent this turn. So it only triggers once, but it can be a 3 power 1 mana creature
Yeah. We also got a 4-mana fling that draws a card, I think. Does it draw a card or make a Power Stone token? I don't remember.
I have it up. Let me see here. Pyretic Blast, 4 mana, sack a creature, deals damage equal to sacrifice creature's power to any target, draw a card.
Draw a card. Which, like, draw a card's nice on a fling, but it's also 4 mana, so.
Yeah. So they're like costing that kind of appropriately.
Yeah.
All right, what's up next?
We got black-green. This is Skyfisher Spider. 2 black-green for a 3/3 spider with reach. When Skyfisher Spider enters a battlefield, you may sacrifice another creature. When you do, destroy target non-land permanent. That's pretty good. When Skyfisher Spider dies, you may gain 1 life for each creature card in your graveyard. If you do, exile Skyfisher Spider from your graveyard. So it's kind of a weird Chupacabra.
A Chupacabra with extra steps.
Yeah. Lets you turn your Shambling Ghast or whatever into a removal spell.
So if you had this card, right, you would want things that die for value. There are very few black. There's like 1 black-green common that dies for value. It's weird. So
yeah, I mean, it's also, I know it's mana intensive, but I think that's kind of the theme for this format, is a lot of the powerful stuff is going to be mana intensive, kind of like we were just talking about with the Junkyard Genius. But it kind of plays nice with unearth stuff. Like you mill a fatty, unearth it, go to combat, swing, play your Skyfisher Spider, sack your unearthed thing.
Yeah. So there's Burrowing Razor Maw. It's a 4/2 for 3, and when it dies, mill 4 cards. Right, so that's something you would want to like have die. And there's also Hoarding Recluse, has Reach Death Touch, and when it dies, put 1 target card from a graveyard on the bottom of its owner's library, with the joke being that you get to put their unearthed creature on the bottom.
Yeah. Is there like a skeleton? A reassembling skeleton or something?
It's an artifact. And it's black. I think it is 2 and a black to return it to your hand.
Okay.
So that's a long way of saying yes. But yeah, there are a few things, but like I just was like, what are things that die for value? Like die and draw a card, or die and like do something. And there's non-vermin, but it's an uncommon.
Yeah.
Where it gives something -1/-1.
I mean, it doesn't have to have a dice trigger to be worthwhile, though. Like, it could have an ETB trigger that's worth a portion of a card, and then you turn this into the rest of the portion of a card.
Yeah, fair.
Something like a Black Cat or something that, you know, makes your opponent discard a card. Like, I mean, obviously it's not ideal. That's probably not how you want to spend your second turn, but if you can make them discard a card and then sack your cat to, you know, kill their threat, then that's a pretty good trade.
We often feed Satyr Wayfinder to things, and we kind of have Satyr Wayfinder that we're going to talk about.
That is true.
So what do we have for blue-red? We have Third Path Iconoclast. So it's blue-red. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, create a 1/1 colorless soldier artifact creature token, and it's a 2/1. So it is a gold young pyromancer that makes artifacts as opposed to elementals.
Or War of the Sparks of Healy does the same thing, right?
And pyromancer is only instant and sorcery. This is just non-creature spell. And then there's like spells matter and artifacts matter kind of going on.
Yeah, a little bit of both. It makes a bunch of artifacts to trigger all your artifacts matter stuff, and it also cares about you casting non-creature spells.
Right, and like it lets you go wide.
Which artifacts are, well, unless they're artifact creatures, artifacts are non-creature spells. So
yeah, and so this is probably going to end up in the casual tryhard arena cube. This feels very.
I have a feeling this is going to end up in a lot of cubes.
Yes. So it is doing the thing. It is interesting.
Yep.
Right, like And
Armenia
again, like,
can.
yes, if Anthony's listening, you better be listening. Right, this is another young pyromancer, his favorite cube card.
Yep.
So there we go.
Yep. When all
Uh,
you have is a hammer, everything looks like a nail. Merely
exactly.
propose expanding our toolbox.
Hey, if you can have one pyromancer, might as well have two.
That's right.
All right. Oh, this guy.
This guy. This is...
Jotun Dissident?
Is it Yodian or is it Yoshin?
Is it? I thought it was Yoshin.
I thought it was Yoshin. Well, I've heard it both ways. That's why I was asking.
I thought it's Yoshin. I thought those guys were Yoshin soldiers or whatever,
soldiers.
right?
That is also what I thought. Okay.
Okay.
You heard it here
So-
first. It's Yoshin.
It's Yoshin. And this is weird for this color pair,
It is.
right? So this is green-white for a 1/1 human artificer.
Mhm.
And whenever an artifact enters the battlefield under your control, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control.
Mm-hmm.
So it is weird that green-white is artifacts matter ETB.
Yes, but it's not weird that green-white is +1/+1 counters.
Very true.
So
It's weird that it triggers off artifacts.
Yeah.
But when I brought this up maybe last week in the pre-show, and you're like, if the whole set is artifact themed, it's not weird like in world.
right.
So
And I mean, it definitely seems like everything's artifact themed. Like we just said, the spells deck cares about artifacts, and the sacrifice deck cares about sacrificing artifacts, and just everything's artifacts.
a bunch of things enter and make power stones.
Mhm.
So that will trigger this.
Yep.
A
lot of the
I think
1/1 soldier tokens are all artifacts.
Yeah, so there's a lot of places to just get random artifacts in the set. So that is reasonable.
Mhm.
Like this will be a good power level, I think. Again, this is another archetype that feels like it wants you to like kind of go wide again.
Yeah.
Right? Like you're making a bunch of like little creatures, presumably making them bigger and attacking. I don't know if you want to go tall, just because there's not like a hexproof or like really high ward number thing.
Yeah.
To like make that like a reasonable proposition.
Mm-hmm. Nope.
But
I agree.
yeah, but I think like they want you to go wide and kind of like get around whatever monstrous stuff your opponent's going to try to do.
Yep.
And then what is our last one here?
Yoshin Tactician. 2 white-blue for a 3/4 human soldier, and other soldiers you control get +1/+1. So blue-white doesn't care about flyers this time around, and it's not the control archetype. It's a soldier tribal. Yep. Yeah, that's kind of weird. Like, what is the control archetype? Is it like the black-blue tempo-y decks, or is it the like red-blue spells matter deck?
It kind of feels like there's not right. Like it is rare. What was the set that we were making fun of? Blue black is death.
Yeah.
Right. Right. But like usually it's like blue black is a thing, but has the tools to be controlling.
Yeah.
Blue white is a thing, but has the tools to be controlling.
Well,
right?
yeah, but usually like the thing also kind of lends itself to control. Like flyers kind of lends itself to control because, you know, all you have to do is stick a flyer or two and that's your win con. So if you have something that cares about flyers, that's kind of icing on the cake. Like caring about soldiers isn't really something a control deck wants to do.
Yeah. I don't know what the like specific archetype is, but it may just like not matter.
Yeah.
Like what is the hardest deck for blue white to control to beat in modern?
One,
right?
Yeah.
Or like Amulet Titan.
Yeah.
Right, just a thing that's just gonna like play lands and just play like giant thing after giant thing.
You have to answer every single spell.
Right? Right, like it might be hard to make a dedicated control archetype when you've got like just a bunch of like giant haymakers.
Yeah, also
people are gonna have...
Unearth is pretty good against control too.
So it might be that these all kind of have to be like you have to be more of like a tempo-y archetype, because you can't just sit back and removal and counter your way to victory. You have to be applying pressure.
That's true.
Right, so like, I'm like the 7 removal, 4 counter spell, like, 3 divination deck with like whatever ham sandwich to win the game.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, did I resolve something and you drew 2 lands? Oh, you're dead. Where a lot, like, the game goes long and your opponent just plays like an 8/8 for 8.
Yeah.
And you like take a hit for 8 to hit for 8, then you kill it, and then they unearth it and kill you with it.
Yeah.
And it's just like, oh, well, oops. So it might be that it's just hard to have a control archetype when you have these things.
Yeah. That makes sense. I guess that was something I hadn't really thought about.
Yeah, so it might... But again, like, you can... Like, there's gonna be the tools, right? Like, control is just card draw, counter spells, and removal.
Yeah.
And, like, some early blockers and a ham sandwich.
Yep.
And there is a 5-mana 3/4 white flyer.
Yeah, I mean, there's a good blue flyer also.
Yeah, there's like a 5-mana blue flyer that comes into play and makes a 3/3 flyer that makes a power stone. I'm just kind of scrolling through. So there's a few things, but excuse me, but it might just be hard to like play that like dedicated control game when if one thing resolves, you die.
Right.
So, all right. So the archetypes seem interesting. Like it's like blue-white being, like soldiers is just weird. Yeah. Like that's usually like a blue-red archetype.
Or a white-red.
Or white-red. Sorry, yeah, right. White-red's what I meant. Yep. And like the fact that everything cares about artifacts in some way, shape, or form.
Also kind of weird.
Yeah, you usually don't see that. They usually try to like break that apart some. Also, I think it's funny that when I built my cube, I was like, blue-red artifacts matter, and like there had been like 1 set or 2 sets that had like some of that. It was like Kaladesh / like Aether Revolt, and then there was like 1 uncommon from like a core set, Reclusive Artificer or whatever. Yeah, maybe, yeah. And now it's just like every other set. They're like, blue-red artifacts matter, and I'm like, dang it!
Yeah, like, at least you're getting new cards for the cube.
Yeah, send me my R&D check. I'm carrying you people. But yeah, so that went from an archetype that was like pretty rare to like every other set.
Yeah,
seems like they're just like, and it's like artifacts matter, spells matter. Artifacts matter, spells matter. Like,
artifacts and
now.
Spells matter.
Oh, we did it. Peanut butter chocolate done. So again, like these are your like training wheels, but there's also like you're gonna find like the weird sub archetypes and things, and that's like where like sets get interesting when you find like, oh, the black-white deck really shouldn't be grindy, it should be aggressive, and then you've got like, your Hero of the Dunes is your like curve topper to like buy back 1 thing and like kill your opponent.
Yeah.
Also, there's 3 of these uncommons that give your creatures +1/+0. Like this may have been like, oh man, if like these decks don't get people dead by turn 5,
Yeah.
the games just end.
Well, and that was kind of what I was going to ask you next is, we talk a lot of times we talk about a limited format in terms of, is it an aggro format? Is it a grindy format? Is it a ramp format? Whatever. And I mean, it kind of seems like there's a reasonable balance here. Like there's archetypes that want to be mid-range. There's archetypes that want to go super long. There's archetypes that want to get you dead. I think there's more archetypes that want to just get you dead, but there does seem to be kind of a wide...
I guess I haven't looked at everything. I probably should have looked at it a little more closely. But, like, the idea of what are the, like, common creatures in the format, in terms of, like,
there's a bunch of Savannah Lions.
Bunch of Savannah Lions?
Yep.
But, like, so there's a bunch of Savannah Lions, but are there, like, a bunch of... like, are there a bunch of, like, 1/3s and things with big butts? And just scrolling through here, there's, like, a 4-mana 2/4, but, like, who cares? There's a 2-mana 0/3 that sometimes draws you a card. So, like, sometimes it's like, are there things with big butts to slow down the aggression in the early game?
Yeah.
Or, like, kind of reasonably trade. Looks like stuff's kind of, like, sized to trade. In the early game. So, like, looking at there's like a 3-mana 1/4 with lifelink. Like, that just wants you to hold down the ground forever. And it's white. Like, that's a card that, like, none of the archetypes want this card. Maybe green-white?
Yeah.
Right, because you're like, oh, I put counters on my lifelinker. I can never die. But, like, there's a lot of, like, 2/1 on 2/1 violence. Or, like, there's a lot of like the 3-mana 2/3s. There's a ton of, like, Savannah Lions that just get, like, rocked by a 2/3.
Right.
But, like, there's nothing that, like, jumps out. You are right. There are a lot of, like, aggressive 2/1s and, like, there's like 3/1s, like 2-mana 3/1s where they were like, you want an ability on this? Would you like your 3/1 to have ward?
Sure.
Okay, neat. So, and we already talked about the Goblin Blast Runner.
Yeah.
Yeah, they might, like I said, they may have been like, okay, this is giant robot, like Iron Giant world. And, okay, now the Iron Giants are too good. We have to really push the aggressive stuff so it's not just all... So we don't make Rise of the Eldrazi, or what was it, What is the super slow one? Is it M11 or M12? Like, it's like 11, 12, or 13. There's one that is just, like, the best card in the format was, like, Opportunity. Like, 6-mana draw 4.
M13 was the Bolas set.
Okay.
That was the one with Nicole Bolas in it, the Planeswalker.
But there's, like, they might not want a set where, like...
Was M11 the Titans, or was M12 the Titans?
I think it was both.
It was both.
I think. So Opportunity was in M14. Was M14 the slow one? Let me look. Yeah, I think it's M14. So M14 was like super slow. And like Rise of the Eldrazi, which I think in the pre-show I mentioned that Ari Lax was like, this is giving me Rise of the Eldrazi vibes.
I mean, maybe. I think there's plenty of tools for aggro.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I mean, I don't know if you've heard the stories about like Rise of the Eldrazi, like limited tournaments, like RCQs. They often ran out of mountains and swamps in the land boxes because everyone was just drafting black-red aggro. Because like that's like you either got super big,
yeah,
or you ran people down, and everyone was like, "I'm just gonna run people down."
Makes for an easier tournament.
It does. It does. Increases the number of smoke breaks.
That's right.
Or snack breaks in my case. All right. Someone asked what was like the card I was like, what was the like hidden archetype and I had one card pop to mind, and that's Arms Race.
So what's Arms Race do?
It is 3 in a red for an enchantment, and you pay 3 in a red, and you may put an artifact from your hand onto the battlefield. This artifact gains haste. Sacrifice at the beginning of your next end step. So, this format is full of just giant artifact monsters. And this is sneak attack for giant artifact monsters.
A little bit more costly, but yeah.
My counterpoint is Power Stones.
Power Stones, that's right.
Right, so you can use your Power Stones to activate the enchantment.
Yep.
So, right, like you can just jam Arms Race. Like if you have an Arms Race and like some Power Stones laying around on turn 5, you could like Arms Race, Power Stone, smash someone. And like if it has Unearth,
even better.
Right, then next turn you just unearth it, and then you Arms Race the next thing in your hand.
Yep.
And just like run people down with like your wave after wave of like common 7/7 like monster.
There's no blink in this set, right?
No,
Yeah,
I've not seen any.
So.
All right, so just so there is Blitz Automaton. It's 6/4 with haste for 7, or 3/2 for 3 for 7 with haste. There's a Boulder Branch Golem, 7 mana, 6/5 that gains you life when it equal to its power when it enters the battlefield at common. There's Deep Death Colossus, a 9 mana 9/9 that doesn't untap during your next untap step. I don't care. You sacrifice, dog.
Yep.
You're a 9 damage Lava Axe.
That's right.
There's the black one that's a 5/4 Death Toucher that prototypes as a 1/1. So there's my boy Rust Goliath, 10 mana, 10/10 Trample Reach. Prototypes for 3 green to a 3/5. Right, like it is not going to be hard to like get these big idiots.
Yeah,
and
like the Rust Goliath, that's what I would want to prioritize though.
Oh yeah.
Because that's definitely if a soldier jumps in front of your 9/9 that doesn't have evasion, then that's kind of a waste of a 9/9 and your mana.
Yeah. No, like that, and if you've what's it called? If you've seen like the Vintage Cube, how like the sneak attack decks are built, where it's like you're like a blue-red like control deck, and then you find sneak attack and just bury people.
Yeah.
Right, like you could build this very similarly, where you're just like using blue and red cards to like dig for your Arms Race, and like keep the board clear with like deal 3 damage to this, destroy an artifact, blah blah blah, and then like the board is relatively clear, and you're like Arms Race 10 you.
Yep.
And then next turn you're just like, I'll play 2 things and attack you.
Yep.
And you've got some chip damage in or whatever, and like you win the game that way. Like I feel like that's gonna be fun. That's gonna be the thing that you like. Do I 100% think like, oh yeah, this is gonna be like great? Maybe, I don't know.
It'll be something fun to try though.
Is it gonna be fun? Yes, yes it is, and like that's why we play games. Hopefully, is because it's going to be super fun.
Yep.
So we're gonna hope that is where things work out. That we just end up with with something fun to do.
Yep.
But that is the first thing that I want to open.
Yeah.
Is I want to open that, and then like again like the like there's uncommon ones that are good too. Right. A 7 mana 8/7 menace. The hulking metamorph is a 9 mana 7/7 that like can copy something that might have flying.
Right.
Or trample
or menace or whatever.
Yeah. So like there's enough of these cards at what's it called? At
I mean, this is a deck that probably wants that fling too, though.
oh yeah. Like you
Put your
attack them and
giant
you
thing
fling
in
your
play
10
and then fling it at them.
and then fling
Yes.
your 10/10 like
Draw
yes
a card.
please. Yeah, great.
Yep.
So that's the card that I'm most interested in. I'm trying to look for other cards that like might be build aroundy or like kind of neat for limited, and there's nothing that like jumps out to me.
There wasn't anything that jumped out at me either.
Um like the other stuff is just also though if you play Suchi's Cave Guardian off of it and then fling it and then get 8 mana and then just play one of your guys out of your hand,
That seems pretty
like,
good too.
We've done it. Thank you very much. Like achievement unlocked. Maybe the Transmogrant Altar.
Yeah.
Like that is kind of like an engine unto itself.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like cranking, like ramping you, like on turn 4 you get up to 6 mana. Because you have to spend the 1 to sack the creature. Like that's pretty solid. Turning your bad creatures into 3/3s
Also
is
seems
pretty good.
solid.
So like that could just be a way for you to like work through. Also,
I mean, that kind of sounds like a control deck win con.
Yeah, you just kind of sit there and just like get some value off a creature, sack it, make it a 3/3.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know how Symmetry Matrix is gonna work. I could be wrong. Do you know this one?
It cares about like power and toughness being the same, right?
Yeah, 4 mana artifact. Whenever a creature with power equal to its toughness enters the battlefield under your control, you may pay 1. If you do, draw a card. Seems rough.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of 1/1s.
There are a lot of 1/1s because it doesn't say non-token.
Right.
And a lot of the robots are symmetrical. So
makes sense.
I think. Yep.
Being machinery.
Yes, you don't make asymmetric machinery.
That's right. So are there any I know you haven't had a whole lot of time to spend with the set, and a lot of times like these kind of questions are better after you've run through a few drafts, but are there any like first pickable commons, do you think?
First pickable commons. Let me look. My first guess is probably the black removal spell that gets cheaper based on the number of creatures that are in your graveyard. I would guess could be first pickable.
Yeah.
The Satyr Wayfinder, Blanchwood Prowler, which we'll talk about in a little bit, could probably. Oh, here's your guy. Clay Revenant, 1 mana, 1/2, enters the battlefield tapped. Pay 2 and a black, return Clay Revenant from your graveyard to your hand.
Yep.
That's your
That's the one I was thinking of.
Yeah. Not that I want any part of picking that first, but
right.
I wonder how good Disenchant is going to be in this format. Like, is it just going to be like removal for things that matter?
I think so.
Kind of like Destroy Evil became like, I think was like the best white common in Dominaria United.
Yeah.
Because it just killed so much stuff. Like, is Disenchant just gonna kill so many things that matter?
Yeah. That's actually on my list here. We can skip ahead a little bit and talk about it if you would like.
Okay. Sure.
Let me get there. It's on here because of the art.
Okay.
It's sweet Richard Kane Ferguson art, and this looks like the Doom guy like blasting a robot.
Oh, nice.
But yeah, I figured we'd talk about Disenchant anyway because normally when we see whatever the Disenchant or Nature's Claim or whatever that effect is in a set, we always ask if it's a set where it can be main deckable. And I'm pretty sure in this set, Disenchant is main deckable. That's why we got a couple different versions of it.
Yeah, let's see here. So we just look at how many artifacts are there in the Brothers' War. There are 75 artifacts. Now, they their value varies.
Right.
But there are 75 artifacts.
Yeah, chances are you're going to have a target.
And you're going to be pretty happy because a lot of them are like creatures. Like it's just like,
yeah,
I'd say probably 50 out of the 75 are creatures that you'd want to kill.
Yeah.
Right, your opponent pays like 7 mana for a thing, and you're just like, boop, and it dies. And then let's see here, enchantments. How many enchantments do we have? There are 20 enchantments. 2 of which are mythics. 3 mythics. 3 mythics and 1, 2, 3. I want to say 3 rares because the 4th rare is not a card that is good.
Okay.
So, Painful Quandary. If your opponent casts a spell, they discard a card or take 5 damage.
Yeah.
I don't think that card's getting played anywhere. So, yeah, I think this card could be just main deckable. Could just be a good removal spell in the format.
Yep. I think it's a nice counter for Arms Race.
Boo! No counters for Arms Race. Also, Disfigure.
Yeah.
Right, you're in like a weakish pack, right? And you want to, and you're like, I want to be the big deck, ideally, like you go, I want to do big things.
Mm-hmm.
You've got to make it to turn 5 and turn 6 with a relatively clean board.
Right.
So a card like Disfigure, like if you're like, oh, my rare is Painful Quandary, and like none of my uncommons are good.
Yeah.
Right? Like the cheap 1 mana removal spell that can like take out their 2-drop, leave the board clear, and let you set up is probably pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
So that might be another one. Not that it's first pickable, but Oran's Escape.
Oh yeah.
The 1 mana target artifact or creature you control gains hexproof and indestructible.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's just gonna blow so many people out.
Yeah.
It's gonna be like, I guess I lose
combat
now.
math. It's gonna counter a removal spell.
Yeah, like it's just gonna be so bad.
Yep.
For someone. So I think Disfigure is the one that like comes to mind. Also, like, the like if you're gonna pick something that's not super powerful or like this a common, like ideally a colorless common,
mm-hmm.
right? So any of these artifact creatures, like the big artifact creatures that have like prototype.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff to do with them.
Yeah, you don't have to prototype. You don't have to care about the colored mana cost.
Right. Well, I mean, there's
like
they can go in different archetypes. So there's a lot of different archetypes that care about having a big dumb thing. You could be blue green. You could be the Arms Race deck. You could be the Reanimate deck. Lots of different archetypes could care about generic big thing.
Scrapwork Ravager is maybe first pickable.
Which one?
4 mana for a 2/2. Enters the battlefield, you draw a card, lose a life. It's Phyrexian Rager for 1 more mana.
Yeah.
And then it unearths for 3 and a black.
Yep.
Right, like that's a card that you would like take, be relatively happy about, play it on 4, trade it off for something, and
sacrifice
unearth it
to something.
Yeah, like it's a card that it's not committing you to black.
Right.
Right, like if you have the ability to get black mana, great. But if not, it doesn't matter.
Yep. So what about mythic uncommons? There was one that kind of jumped to my mind, but I didn't have a chance to make a slide for it.
So you liked Combat Thresher.
Yeah.
So it is 7 mana for a 3/3 double striker, ETB, draw a card, and it prototypes for 2 and a white as a 1/1 double striker that has the draw a card text.
Yeah.
I think Battery Bearer has that chance if like the Go Big deck is just good.
Yeah.
Right? Where like you play like card that can block, and like hold the ground, then Battery Bearer, and if they don't kill it, you're just like, oh, I guess I have 8 mana now.
Yeah. The huge thing.
Yeah. Or like that's not even counting like, if there is some like 3-color archetype where you can like make a bunch of tokens in white.
Yeah.
And then go super big that way.
Yeah, like my thought on Combat Thresher was the is it Priest of Forgotten Gods? No. Priest the white one from Kaldheim. Priest the dwarf.
The dwarf.
2 and a white ETB draw card.
Oh, that guy. Yeah.
And then we had the angel in Streets.
So, what is it? What was his name? So he's from. I thought he was from. So there was Inspiring Overseer.
Was the Streets one?
Was the Streets one, and replaced like Priest of Forgotten something.
Lore. Priest of Forgotten
Lore.
Yep.
Yeah. Now they both gained a life, but like
Yeah,
having double strike does just like let you block more stuff.
Yeah, and it's also modal.
Yeah. It can just be like a giant thing.
Yeah.
Later on in the game. Yeah, I could see that where you just get to kind of do whatever with it. It's also weird that they have these like lay down arms, like these cards that are like play a whole bunch of one basic land type.
Well, I mean, you're kind of going to have to without ways to fix your mana. There's no dual lands, so.
I
mean, that's kind of a vote against any 3-color archetype, is that there's no fixing.
Yeah.
And all of the ramp is colorless.
All of the ramp is colorless much. Nothing jumps out. Like Thresher is probably just like generically good. Where it's just like, yeah, it does the thing you want it to do. Maybe Steel Exemplar.
Which one's that? Is that
5 mana, 4/4 trample, and it enters the battlefield with 2+1/+1 counters on it, unless 2 or more colors of mana were spent to cast it.
Okay.
So like, you tap your mountains and some power stones, and you get a 6/6.
Yeah.
Trampler.
That's pretty good.
And it's colorless, like just wherever you end up.
Yeah.
You're able to like play it, and everything's giving you power stones. And it feels like on a lot of these cards, the power stones are free.
Mostly.
Right.
I think that they're toned down a little bit from like the treasure cards and from the food cards, where I think in those circumstances, the piece of cardboard was just tacked on. With most of these, there is some amount of cost to it.
So, like, I guess Argothian Opportunist is a 2 and a green 3/2. Enters, makes the Power Stone. It's, I guess, great now is a 3 mana 3/3. So I guess a 3/2 is a 2017 3-drop.
Yeah.
So I guess that kind of like fixes it, but like Evacuation Explosion. 3 mana to deal 3 damage to any target, make a tap Power Stone. It's a sorcery, so I guess that has been an instant before.
Well, I mean, it's 3 mana also.
Yeah, but we don't get Lightning Strike that often. We just had it, but we don't get Lightning Strike that often.
Well, so what was the last one we had that hit anything? Was it Royal Eruption? Was sorceries?
Really? It hit creature or player. And it was sorcery speed and 2.
Yeah.
So yeah, maybe they did price it into that one. The 2/2 Metis guy that makes a temporary Power Stone.
Yeah.
Like, I guess like you don't want to rumble with him because it can go away, but it's
Well,
not.
I mean, it's in red, so I guess they're thinking you're going to sacrifice it.
Yeah, and it's not going to really matter.
I don't know. When I was flipping through, it didn't really seem like anything was like just free. It was like there was a mana baked in, or there was a speed restriction, or like there was something on the card where it wasn't just free, like they were doing with treasures and stuff.
Yeah.
Like the divination is a loot instead of just draw 2.
Yeah, it's draw 2, discard 1. Yeah, so they price it in a little bit. But I don't know if we're paying full cost for them. Like, that's what we're gonna find out. Like, if we're not, like, then it's just nutty.
Yeah.
So what is the other uncommon you're excited about?
This guy. I'm gonna draft a whole bunch of this guy, Giant Cindermaw. 2 in a red for a 4/3 with trample, and players can't gain life.
Yeah, so this was a rare in Ixalan.
It wasn't a 4/3 in Ixalan, it was a 3/3.
It was a 3/3 menace.
Yeah.
And it got banned.
Yep.
In standard.
Sure
yeah, like this is Saffron All has been doing his set reviews, and he's like, I went and looked up what are the 3 mana red 4/3s that don't have a significant downside. And there's one. Crushy. So Bone Crusher Giant is the only 3 mana 4/3 that doesn't have like a significant downside other than this guy.
Mm-hmm. This guy's great.
Now, this is no Crushy. This is no Crushy, but
it's uncommon.
It will get people dead in a hurry.
Yeah.
Which is why I keep saying, like, you've got to draft those cards that, like, you know, you're Argothian Opportunist, right? You play that on 3, and you're on the play that makes your opponent's Giant Cindermaw just like a 3 mana deal 2.
Yeah.
Right? And, like, your Opportunist ripped you a little bit, so you're fine with that.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, you got to make sure you play the cards that, like, protect you.
I like this guy a lot, though.
Oh yeah. I'm not arguing.
I'm gonna guess that good. I'm gonna have 4 of these before any other card in the set.
How do you have 4 uncommons before you have 4 commons? Shh.
It's because I take every one. Every
I've never
one
passed
I see.
one. I've passed 0 of these.
Yep. First pick, Giant Cindermaw. But there was an Urza in that pick. No, Giant Cindermaw.
I ain't playing blue-white, fool. I'm playing Giant Cindermaw.
That's right.
So yeah, like, I agree. That card is going to be really solid. It's going to get a lot of people dead.
Mm-hmm.
It might be one of those cards that, like, kind of defines if you're,
like, what you're allowed to play.
What you're allowed to play / like, if your red deck is good.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Did you get, like, Monastery, Swift Spear, and Cindermaw or not?
Yeah.
Like, oh, like, I got a Swift Spear, but not a ton of spells. Like, okay, your red deck's kind of eh.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't even know how good Swift Spear is in this format. There's not a whole lot of, like, cheap cantrippy stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. I mean, one drops with haste are, I guess, going to be good regardless, but I wouldn't expect Swift Spear to, like, overperform in this limited environment, I don't think.
Yeah, probably not. More just, like, do you have those, like, aggressive creatures? There is a Whirling Strike. 1 in a red instant. Target creature gets +2/+0. Gains first strike and trample to end of turn.
No, that's pretty good with Swift Spear.
Yeah. I'm, like, looking at, like...
And if it makes you a token with your other guy, too, that's pretty good.
Yeah, I'm looking for... There is Giant Growth, if you want to go red-green beast. There's not a lot of cheap instants, right? Like, most of them are 2 mana.
Mm-hmm.
There's, like, Giant Growth and Disfigure and Laurent's Escape, but there is the cheapest cantrip is Curate.
Yeah.
So, yeah, there's not a lot for Swift Spear. But like, do you have the um like the really aggressive cards to make your um aggressive deck work? Wow, there are only 9 sorceries at common.
Really?
Yeah. Uh, one is destroy target artifact. If its mana value was 1 or less, draw a card.
Thanks.
So blow up a Power Stone, draw a card.
Yep.
Yeah, there's not a ton of stuff, and then like one shoot down, a sideboard card. So, yeah, those like, and again, arms race will be my mythic uncommon. If you're sitting beside me and I open one, you're not getting it. I'm just taking it, and we're gonna have fun.
Yep.
We might win through the draft, but dang it, we're gonna go down in style.
That's right. We're gonna have fun doing it.
Yeah. So what else do we got? We have our
prototype cards.
Cycles.
Yeah.
Okay. So we talked about prototype last time. So all cards now are split cards, and we have the mythics up here.
I put up the cheap ones.
Yes.
For a specific reason. I think we mentioned in the mechanics episode last week that these prototype cards might be a way, kind of like the Cascade decks use, like Bone Crusher Giant and Brazen Borrower, to kind of have action while still like being able to do the thing they're trying to do. These fill a similar role where they're like a big giant thing that you're never going to cascade into, but also have text at a lower mana value.
Yeah.
So like, I just went through and pulled out some of the cheap ones.
Yeah, so I was looking at the things that are like 2 and 3 mana, like the Rootwire Amalgam, and it's just like it can be a 2 mana 2/3. Like, if your opponent's playing Burn, you just like plunk this guy down, and you're just like block.
Yep.
Like, I'm gonna make you use a lightning bolt on this. Something, just block.
Yep.
Just buy me 3 damage or 3 life, so I can like kill this person next turn.
Yeah.
With the Steel Seraph, it's like 3 mana for a 3/3 flyer. Amazing.
Yeah, that's great.
Block.
Yep.
Just fine.
Well, it also like gives something keywords like block, gain some life, block, fly over the top, whatever.
Yeah, so like anything that like also like Karuga's having a bit of a resurgence. And like Pioneer, so like you could like Rootwire Amalgam and have a 2/3 and like cheat the fact that you aren't supposed to be able to have 2 drops in Karuga.
Right.
So
this Flesh Gorger I think is pretty good too.
Yeah.
3 mana, 3/3 menace lifelink with ward, pay life equal to its power.
Yeah, like I mean Thunderbreak Regent was basically this before ward.
Yep.
So like, and that card saw a lot of play. And I mean, Black has been playing a lot of 3 mana 3/3s.
Sure have. As
of late. So now this doesn't doesn't eat their graveyard, but it keeps you alive.
Correct.
Which is a thing.
Yeah. I think there's plenty of stuff that eats graveyards right now.
Yes, plenty of stuff. I'm so glad there's incidental graveyards. Hey, stop it. Stop it.
That makes one of us.
Yes, some of us want to play in that zone.
That's right.
Oh, it's so good. There's degenerate stuff in the graveyard. It's like every other card they print's like, oh, eat the graveyard. Like, stop it.
Yeah, that happens to be my sandbox. Please get out of it.
Yes. Get out of my sandbox, please.
That's right.
All right, and then we have our cycle of Satyr Wayfire Durish cards.
Yeah, it's weird that they did a whole cycle of this because typically not every color gets this effect. So I know, like in particular, you had wanted to talk about this Blanchwood Prowler being just Satyr Wayfinder.
It's a little off.
Yeah, but I thought it was relevant to talk about the whole cycle because we don't ever get a red one or a white one. You know what I mean?
So the the Satyr Wayfinder, you know, in air quotes, what we're talking about is these cards all come in mill 3 cards, and then you can pick a card type as specified on the card.
Mm-hmm.
So the white one is a 1/1 flyer for 3,
Mm-hmm.
and it enters at mills 3, and then you can put a plains card or a creature card with mana value 3 or less from among the milled cards into your hand.
Mm-hmm.
And if you can't, you put a counter on it.
So you always get
like,
something.
you always, or if you don't, so you can choose not to and to get the counter.
Yep.
So like,
Well,
you can
actually,
always
I
just
guess
get
you always get 2 things. You get to put 3 cards in your yard, and you either get a card or a counter.
Exactly. So like, this one's fine. Like, the sweet spot for this is like Satyr Wayfinder at like 2.
Yeah.
Right. Like, if this was like 2 and it like got you a land, got you a plains or a creature,
mm-hmm.
amazing. Sign
Even
me
if
up.
all it did was get you a plains, I think that'd be fantastic.
Yeah. I mean, if it was 2, like, it would just go directly into Greasefang, because it would like, oh, get a plains or a Greasefang, whichever one I'm missing.
It would have to lose flying though. That'd be too powerful.
Oh yeah, it couldn't be. It couldn't. Yeah, it would. They'd have to change it somehow.
Yeah.
Right. But then you have oh boy, Falaji.
Sure.
Yeah, Falaji archaeologist. It's 1 in a blue for an 0/3. And when it enters the battlefield, mill 3 cards. You may put a non-creature, non-land card from among them, and from among the milled cards into your hand this way. Mm-hmm. If not, put a ++ counter on it. So, like, again, 3 cards in your yard, plus, could be a 1/4.
Yep. Good roadblock.
Good speed bump.
Yep.
So I had seen a tweet of someone who tweeted like mono blue Solarian Terror in Pauper, who was like, I want to test this card in that. It's like, oh, like sometimes it just like you go like consider put a card in your graveyard, this put 3 cards in your graveyard and go, I'm good, I won't put anything in my hand, and then just like terror you. Great, cool, I win.
Yeah.
So like,
or you flip kind and then consider and then play your guy.
Yeah, it takes a good draw, but it's not like impossible. And like, this is just like, you know, maybe better than Augur of Bolus that just puts the cards on the bottom of your library.
Yeah, I think this is definitely better than Augur of Bolus.
So I get a deck like that for sure.
Yeah.
So yeah, like at 2 mana, like. And if it's 2 mana, just put a spell in your hand. That's fine.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Especially if you have other graveyard synergies.
Yep.
4 mana seems rough for this.
Yeah, I don't think this one's particularly good, but Ravenous Gigamole, it's got the best name, I think.
It says.
A 2/3 mole horror for 4 mana. And when it ETBs, you mill 3 cards, and you get to pick a creature from among them to put in your hand. Otherwise, it gets +1/+1. Yeah, I mean, 4 mana for a 3/4 isn't like super duper exciting. And I mean, the self-mill strategies that's probably why this one's costed the way it is, because
this would probably be really good in that deck.
Yeah.
I'm just look at the artwork. Is that like its nose?
Yeah, it's like, what's that, the naked mole rats or whatever have that star nose?
Okay. So, I at first, when the small picture that we have up, I thought it was like shooting lasers out of its nose, where like that was like a light around its nose, and I was like, is that a laser beam? But no, it is just its nose. Okay.
You can see like its eye and its mouth behind it.
Yeah. So this one just seems a little like,
Yeah.
But is
again, like you said,
fine.
2 mana is probably the sweet spot.
Yeah. The Tomakul Scrap Smith is a 2/1 for 3 and mill 3, and then you can put an artifact. So could be good. Like, you have to have a lot of artifacts in your deck to actually hit.
Or care about binning cards.
Yeah.
It's just
And
weird
two, what?
because like red isn't a color that gets this. So I don't know. That's kind of like what, like I said, why I wanted to talk about this cycle as a cycle instead of just the green
Yeah.
one, because like we said about white, and again with red here, that's not a color that gets this effect.
Yeah. I think that like the joke might be that there's a reasonable number of unearthed cards in red.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe it's like, hey, you're gonna mill yourself for some value here.
Yeah.
And again, like oh, interesting. There are no uh no unearthed cards that are just red. Because they're all unearthed, the unearthed costs are colored, but the cards are not.
Yeah.
So there's like a rare Artificer's Dragon that has a red unearthed. There's our Heavyweight Demolisher. There's Mishra's Juggernaut. There's Phyrexian Dragon Engine, our boy that wants to hang out with Mishra. The Scrapwork Mutt. So there's like a number of like red cards that have
Unearthed.
I don't know, so that might be like the joke, right? Now the best one is Blanchwood Prowler.
And why is that?
So it's 1 in the green for a 1/1. Enters, mills 3. Put a land card from among the milled cards into your hand, and if you don't, put a counter on it. So Satyr Wayfinder has proven itself all the way back to Legacy.
Mm-hmm.
And it mills 4 and puts land into your hand.
Mm-hmm.
The card type, the single card type you have most in your deck is lands.
Yep.
So your odds of hitting on a Blanchwood Prowler is higher than it's going to be for almost anything else.
Right. I mean, your deck is probably about a third lands anyway, so you realistically should hit one of them.
Mm-hmm. Right. Like most people play 24 lands now.
Right.
Right. So you're like 40% lands.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're like, feeling frisky, you're like playing 22 lands.
Yeah.
So you're like 36% lands or something. Like you're good to hit, right? And the thing with Satyr Wayfinder is it enabled a bunch of other stuff.
Mm-hmm.
This card's going to enable the Abzan Greasefang decks in Pioneer to look a lot more. Sorry, in Explorer to look a lot more like the Pioneer decks.
Ones. Yeah.
The current Pioneer ones, right, that have Satyr Wayfinder. Right, if you told me that they were like, yeah, we're just gonna be like 8 Wayfinder, like I'd believe you.
Mm-hmm.
It's like never miss my third land,
right,
or hardly ever miss my third land, and always have a full graveyard. Neat.
Yep.
Right, so that's just like this card's just gonna hit a decent amount of the time, and just going to enable like shenanigans.
Well, one more thing that I don't think you touched on is that Satyr Wayfinder has 0 relevant creature types.
None.
And Blanchwood Prowler is an elemental, which is a pretty relevant creature type.
It is. I've thought about like, is this good enough for elementals? I'll probably have to like test it out.
Yeah.
It might be. It would take the Arboreal Grazer slot. Probably.
Yeah, I mean it doesn't ramp you, but kind of does the same thing.
Yeah.
But is an elemental.
Yes. So, yeah. I mean, there's not tribal satyrs.
Right.
Shocking. But yeah, so this card just kind of does everything you want a card to do.
Mm-hmm.
So like I think the blue and the green one are probably the ones that are going to see the most play. Just because they're the cheapest.
Yeah.
The white one's probably next. Like, if you're mono white, this is just draw a card, right? Because you're gonna either hit a plains, or you're gonna hit a creature.
Yeah.
Right. It's just gonna draw you a card. I don't know if like draw a land or creature is good enough.
I don't think this is better than Combat Thresher. and I don't think it's better than Inspiring Overseer.
Probably not. Right. The fact that Inspiring Overseer was a 2/1 was a big deal.
Yeah. Well, I mean, this could be a 2/2, but then you don't get your card.
Yeah, like you want your card.
Yeah.
But like it does give you selection.
Yeah.
Right. Like if you have your next land, you could like not take a land. But no, this is an interesting cycle. Like I've like maybe the reason they haven't put Satyr Wayfinder on Arena is because they knew this was coming. And they were
that's
like,
not really a reason. Satyr Wayfinder's still better.
It is, but they only have like one coding intern, and like they've got that one person has to code the entire set.
Yeah.
And I can't code anymore, boss. bro, type more numbers, bro.
More clickety clacks. I need more clickety clacks out of you.
Bro, more click clack, less yap yap. Need my beans. Right, so yeah, I don't know like if this is like a reason we're like, well, let's not put Satyr Wayfinder on, then we have this other card coming, like who cares, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
But like this is, if anything, this would be Wayfinder like 5-6 in a deck.
Yeah, I mean, if you're not playing Stitcher Supplier, like Stitcher Supplier still probably takes precedent over this also. So it would be like Satyr Wayfinder number 9 and 10.
Fair. I mean, there's also, we talked about them like gnawing, whatever. What was it? Gnawing Vermin?
Yeah.
That's like baby Stitcher Supplier.
Yeah.
Like, there's a ton of ways to do self-mill now, cheap on creatures.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of wish they hadn't banned Hogak and Modern. Just have that like dialed up.
Yeah, Jerry T said Hogak wasn't a problem, remember?
Yeah, man, I really wish I had a Satyr Wayfinder. One drop that milled me some cards. Here are 2 now, Jerry. And then 2 drops that do it. Okay, Satyr Hogak's a problem now. Okay. Yeah. It's official.
Yeah.
But yeah, like it's like these are the kind of cards that you don't realize like make a format turn.
Mm-hmm.
Like make things happen. So our archaeologist friend coming to a Pauper game near you. Like the black one could have been so good with like the common removal spell that cares about how many creatures are in your graveyard.
Well, I mean, maybe they made this one bad because we also have the other guy.
Oh, the gnawing whatever.
Yeah.
It's an uncommon though, right? Like you could have had like the removal spell, Writhing Necromass, and then like a way to fill your graveyard, like as like a popper kind of thing.
Yeah.
Where it's like, hey, you have like 8 fish, now you have like, writhing fish, mass fish,
mass fish,
and 8 fish.
Yeah.
And then there we go. But there will be no
zombie
8 fish. There will be no 8 fish or mass fish.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, these are interesting, and it is like weird that they kind of decided that like every color gets to like play in the graveyard.
Mm-hmm.
So
strange.
All right. We've only kind of covered limited and cycles, and we have an entire show. We did it.
We did it.
So next week we'll finish off. We'll go through the colors. If there's anything you want to add, hit us up. Let us know.
Yeah. We're also gonna try and get that episode out early, right?
Exactly. I'm gonna try to get it out either right after we record, or I could do it like Tuesday, so you guys have it like kind of as soon as the set, or as close to as soon as the set hits Arena as possible.
Yeah, I probably won't be able to get it out on YouTube Monday night, but I should be able to get it out at some point during the day on Tuesday. So
yeah, we'll just aim for Tuesday for both. So just expect our pod after this. It is the rest of the set to come out on to come out on Tuesday.
Yeah, that way you got something to listen to while you're jamming limited games on Arena.
Okay. In fairness, they have something to listen to while Arena is down on opening day.
That's true. While you're waiting for the update.
While you're waiting on the update to download, or matchmaking to work, or whatever thing breaks when they add cards. So what are you doing? We're just adding cards. Why does it break everything every time? I don't know.
Not enough clickety-clacks.
Yeah, every time. We need a new intern. Bro, get a new nerd. Bro, this nerd's broken.
We used him up already.
Yeah, nerd's dead. New nerd.
There's a pile of nerds in the corner. They just roll him out of the chair and roll a new one in.
It's like the art from Oubliette.
Yeah.
Just like a skeleton in the corner. What's that? That's the nerd that coded Ixalan.
Poor guy. Wasn't it only an alpha then? Shh. The client was way worse.
Yeah. So, with all that, I think we have a show.
We have a show.
So again, if you want to get at us, add cards to our full set review, hit us up on social media. All those links are in the description below.
Absolutely. If you want to support the show, there's two ways you can do it. First is our TCG Player affiliate link. If you're looking to pick up any cards, pre-order anything from this set maybe. If you visit TCG Player using our affiliate link, tcg.casualtryhardmtg.com, anything you purchase after following that link will get a percentage of that helps keep the show going. And if you guys want to support us more directly, patreon.com/casualtryhardmtg is how you can do that. You can chip a couple bucks in if you think we're doing a good job and help support the show, and you get access to our pre-show, you get access to our show notes, and you get put on my mailing list for when I have cool stuff to send out. So do that. We would appreciate it.
Yeah. So with that, we'll catch you on the internets.
We'll catch you on the internets.